The corridor of the old space station was silent, cold, and endless. Metal walls hummed with the low sound of engines that had been running for many years. The station was not built for comfort, only for survival. And yet, here she was, forced to survive inside it. Her name was Lyra, an alien woman from a proud people. Her skin was a deep green, glowing softly in the dim light. Her hair was long, silver like moonlight falling over her shoulders. She was beautiful, but her beauty did not save her. She had been cast out, exiled. Her only crime was being late with her pregnancy. Her people believed that children must be born under strict time cycles. Any delay was seen as weakness. Her people did not forgive weakness, so she was sent away, sent to this lonely station, with nothing but a small case of clothes. She carried life inside her belly, heavy and fragile. Her hands always rested on it, as if she could protect the child from the cruelty of the universe. She was afraid. But she was also strong. She would not let her exile break her spirit. At least, that was what she told herself every day. The air was dry, food supplies were poor. She sat on a metal bench, staring at the same wall for hours. Days felt like years. Her heart longed for someone to speak with, but no one came. No voice echoed in the empty halls. The silence was crushing her, until one day she heard footsteps. They were heavy, strong. Different from her people's soft walk, her heart froze. She thought it might be guards, or worse, the scavengers. She pressed her hand against her belly and prepared to hide. But then she saw him, a man, a human. He stepped into the corridor with slow, cautious movements. His clothes were worn, his boots covered in dust. He looked like a worker, someone who had seen many hard days. His face carried tiredness. But also something else, kindness. His eyes were blue, sharp but gentle, and when they met hers, she felt something she had not felt in a long time. Hope. He stopped, just a few steps away. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The silence was thick, filled with questions. Why was she here? Why was he here? What would happen next? Finally, he lifted his hand slowly. Not a weapon, not a threat. Just his hand, reaching toward her. Lyra's breath caught in her throat. Her mind screamed at her to stay away. But her heart ached for connection. Her fingers trembled as she reached out. Their hands almost touched, so close, just a breath of air between them. "Don't be afraid," he said softly. His voice was deep, warm. It sounded strange to her ears, different from the cold voices of her people. It was human. It was real. Tears stung her eyes. She wanted to believe him, but she had been taught that humans were dangerous, selfish, untrustworthy. She had been taught they could never care for someone like her. And yet, here was this man, not laughing, not judging, just standing there, offering his hand. Her lips trembled, her voice was weak, almost a whisper. Why would you help me, human?" He gave a small smile. "Because you look like you need it," he answered simply. No big speech, no demand, just truth. Her heart beat faster. For the first time in many cycles, she felt she was not alone. But trust was not so easy. She pulled her hand back quickly, holding her belly again, her eyes narrowed, filled with suspicion. "What do you want from me?" she asked. The man did not step closer. He only lowered his hand and shook his head. "Nothing," he said. "I just couldn't walk away." The silence returned, but this time it was different. It was not empty. It was heavy with meaning, with possibilities. Her child moved inside her. A small kick. She gasped softly. The human noticed, and his eyes widened with surprise. "You're pregnant," he said slowly, almost whispering the word. Lyra's face hardened with shame and anger. "Yes," she said. "That is why I was thrown away." His jaw tightened. He looked at her as if the thought itself made him angry. "Thrown away," he repeated, "for carrying life." She nodded, eyes wet. Her voice cracked. "They called it weakness. The man shook his head. His eyes blazed with fire. "Then they don't deserve you," he said. His words cut through the cold. Air like a blade, Lyra blinked, stunned. No one had ever said something like that to her before. In that moment, she knew her life was about to change. She didn't know if she could trust this human. She didn't know if he could protect her, but she knew one thing. Her exile was no longer empty. And for the first time, the station did not feel like a prison. It felt like the beginning of something else, something dangerous, something beautiful, something human. The days on the station changed after the human appeared. His name was Kale, and he came every day now, bringing small things from his ship, food packets, clean water, even a blanket that smelled faintly of oil and smoke. For Lyra, it was more than gifts. It was proof that she was not forgotten, that someone still saw her as more than an outcast. At first, she kept her distance. Her pride as an alien and her fear as a mother-to-be built a wall between them. But Kale never pushed. He worked quietly, repairing broken pipes in the station, fixing the flickering lights. And every time he finished, he would leave something, small for her, a gesture that asked for nothing in return. One evening, the lights dimmed and the engines groaned. The station felt more fragile than ever. Lyra sat with her back against the wall, her hands on her stomach. The baby shifted again, stronger this time. She closed her eyes, whispering in her native tongue, a prayer for strength when she opened. Them, Kale was there watching her from the shadows. He stepped closer, his voice low. "You shouldn't be alone when the time comes." Her eyes narrowed. "Suspicious. You think I would let a human near my child," she said sharply. Kale did not flinch. "I think you need someone who won't let you die in here," he answered. The words struck her, cold and sharp. She hated that they were true. Her people had left her here with little food, no medicine, no help. If something went wrong, both she and her child would vanish into the silence of the station, and no one would care. But this man, this stranger, cared enough to stay. Why? That question grew in her mind. What did he want? Why risk his life for her? Why risk his reputation for helping an alien exile? The answer did not come. Instead, the station itself gave a new problem. A loud alarm shrieked through the halls. Red lights flashed. Kyle cursed under his breath, running toward the control panel. "Power drain," he muttered. "Something is leaching energy from the core." Lyra stood slowly, clutching her belly. "What does that mean?" she asked. Kale's face darkened. "It means we're not alone." Her blood froze. Not alone. Exile was supposed to mean silence, emptiness, nothing. But if someone else was here, it could only mean danger. Kale grabbed a tool from his belt. Something, sharp and heavy. "Stay here," he ordered. But Lyra shook her head. Her pride burned too hot. "I am not weak," she said, her voice trembling but firm. "I will not hide while my child's life is in danger." Their eyes met. Kale saw the fire in her and did not argue. Together they moved down the corridor, following the dim light of the failing systems. Every step echoed. Every shadow seemed alive. The silence was no longer empty. It was heavy, like someone was breathing just out of sight. They turned a corner, and there it was, a figure crouched by the power conduit. Wires pulled apart, sparks flying. It was not human, not alien like Lyra either. Its skin was pale gray, its eyes glowing red like hot coals. It turned its head slowly, and a chilling smile spread across its face. Kale stepped in front of Lyra, gripping his tool tight. The intruder hissed, voice sharp as broken glass. "Two exiles in one place," it said. "How delicious." Lyra's heart pounded. Her child moved violently inside her, sensing her fear. Kale did not move back. He stood tall, unafraid, his voice cut through the corridor, steady and strong. "She is under my protection," the creature laughed, the sound echoing like metal tearing. "Protection," it sneered. "You cannot even protect yourself." It lunged forward faster than her eyes could follow. Kale swung his tool, sparks burst. The fight was brutal, loud, filled with crashing metal and heavy grunts. Lyra pressed, herself against the wall, breathing hard. She wanted to help, but her body was heavy, her hands shaking. Still, she refused to look away, her eyes locked on Kyle as he fought. He was only human, but every strike carried strength like steel. Every move said one thing: he would not let her fall. Finally, with a roar, Kyle struck the creature's chest. It screamed, collapsing to the floor, sparks flying from its broken body. It twitched once, then lay still. The corridor went silent again. Kyle dropped his tool, breathing hard, sweat running down his face. Lyra stared at him, her chest tight. "You fought for me," she whispered. Kyle looked at her, his eyes still blazing with fire. "No," he said. "I fought for us." Her heart stuttered. The word us echoed in her mind. For the first time, she did not feel like an exile. She felt like someone who mattered, someone who was worth fighting for. The creature's broken body lay on the metal floor, sparks still hissing from its chest. Kale's breath came heavy, his hands shaking from the fight. Lyra pressed her back against the wall, one hand holding her belly, the other covering her mouth. She could not believe what she had seen. It was not only the danger of the attack, it was the way Kale had stood in front of her, unshaken, ready to die if needed. No one in her people had ever done that for her, not even family. And here was a human, doing it without asking for anything, but the danger was not over. Kale knelt by the creature's body, his eyes narrowing. "This thing was feeding on the station's core," he muttered. Lyra stepped closer, her voice trembling. "What is it?" Kale shook his head. "Not something I've seen before," he said. "But if one got in, more can find us." Her stomach tightened, not from fear this time, but from pain. The child kicked again, stronger, sharper. She gasped, her knees almost buckling. Kale caught her arm quickly, steadying her. "Easy," he said, his voice calm but firm. "You need rest." But she shook her head, pride burning in her eyes. "No," she said, "I need answers." Her people had exiled her, but what if this creature had something to do with it? She could not shake the thought. Exile was punishment, yes, but leaving her on a dying station, weak and unguarded. Perhaps it was not only cruelty, perhaps it was a death sentence. Kale helped her back to the bench, his movements gentle. He stayed close, watching her as she breathed through the pain. When she looked at him, she saw more than just a human worker. She saw a man who carried scars of his own. His hands were rough, his face marked by years of struggle, and yet he still had hope in his eyes. She hated and admired it at the same time. The silence stretched between them until Lyra finally spoke. "They sent me here because I was late," she whispered, her eyes wet. "My child was not born within their perfect cycle, so they called me unfit." Her voice cracked. "They wanted me gone. Forgotten." Kale's jaw tightened, anger sparking in his eyes. He knelt in front of her, meeting her gaze directly. "Then they're fools," he said. "Where I come from, carrying life is the strongest thing anyone can do." Her chest tightened. She wanted to believe him, but she had been told all her life that her worth was tied to rules, to cycles, to obedience. Now here was a human telling her she was strong, not weak. The clash of beliefs shook her heart. But before she could answer, the lights flickered again. This time, the alarm did not sound. The silence was worse. Kale stood quickly, his hand on his tool again. Lyra felt her pulse race. "What now?" she whispered. Kale listened, his eyes sharp. Then they both heard it, a voice echoing faintly through the metal halls, a voice that was not human, not mechanical, but alive. "Lyra," it whispered, stretched and broken like static. Her blood froze. Her name. The creature had spoken before, but this was different. This voice knew her. Kyle turned sharply toward her, his face tense. "It knows you," he said. Lyra shook her head quickly, fear flashing in her eyes. "No," she said, "it can't." But her voice betrayed her doubt. Kale grabbed her hand, pulling her gently but firmly. "We need to find where it's coming from," he said. She hesitated, but the warmth of his hand steadied her. Together, they moved deeper into the station. Every corridor looked the same, but now they felt alive, watching, listening. Her child shifted again, as if reacting to the unseen voice. Her breath caught. "What if it's calling for the baby?" she whispered. Cale looked at her sharply. "Then we don't let it near," he said, his voice like steel. They reached the old command deck, dust covering the consoles. The screens flickered weakly. Cale began, pressing keys, trying to find the source of the signal. Lyra stood behind him, her hands shaking. The voice came again, louder this time. "Lyra, you carry what we seek." Her knees weakened, the words pierced through her like knives. It was not random, it was not chance. The child inside her was the reason. The exile, the station, the attack. None of it was by accident. Someone wanted the life she carried, and they were coming. Cale slammed his hand on the console, his voice sharp and defiant. "Then let them come," he growled. "They'll have to go through me first." Lyra looked at him, her heart racing. For the first time she realized her exile had led her to this man for a reason. Perhaps fate was cruel, but it had given her one gift: a protector, a human, and, maybe, just maybe, a future. The voice echoed again through the control deck, cold and heavy. "Lyra, the cycle is broken, the child belongs to us." The words made her skin crawl. Her hands pressed against her belly as if she could shield her unborn child from the sound. Cale's jaw tightened, fury blazing in his eyes. He slammed the side of the console, the old screen sparking to life with distorted images. At first it was only static, but then shadows began to form. Figures cloaked in darkness, their eyes glowing faint red. They were not of her people, not of humans, but something older, something that had been waiting. Lyra's breath caught in her throat. She recognized the markings on their robes, symbols forbidden in her world, stories told in whispers. They were called the Collectors, beings who believed unborn life carried the strongest energy in the universe. They had been enemies of her kind for centuries, but no one had seen them in generations. And now they had found her. They had found her child. Cale turned to her quickly, his voice steady. "What are they talking about?" She shook her head, her voice trembling. "My people never told me much, only that the Collectors take what is not theirs." Her eyes filled with fear. "They wanted me gone, Kyle. They sent me here because they knew the Collectors would come." The truth crashed down on her like cold water. Her exile was not punishment. It was sacrifice. Her people had cast her out not because she was late, but because they wanted the Collectors to take her instead of someone else. She was bait. Her unborn child was the prize. Cale clenched his fists, his voice a low growl. "Cowards," he spat. "They left you to die so they could save themselves." His hand gripped her shoulder, firm and protective. "They will not have you, not while I'm breathing." Before she could answer, the station shook violently. Metal groaned, dust rained from the ceiling. The Collectors were no longer just voices. They were coming, tearing through the outer hull. Red lights flashed, alarms screamed. The entire deck trembled under their arrival. Cale pulled her toward the exit. "We have to move," he said. Lyra staggered beside him, her body heavy, her child restless inside her. Every step was agony, but she forced herself forward. She would not give her baby to them, not while life burned in her chest. They reached the lower bay. Cale ripped open a storage crate, pulling out oxygen packs and old weapons. He handed her a small device, a glowing shield generator. "It's not strong, but it'll buy you seconds if they get too close," he said. His eyes locked on hers. "You hold on, and I'll fight." Her lips trembled. "You will fight them all?" she asked. Cale gave a sharp nod, his face set in stone. "I've fought worse odds," he said, "but I've never had a reason like this before." The walls shook again, cracks splitting through the metal. The bay doors ripped apart with a scream of tearing steel, and the Collectors stepped inside. Tall, cloaked figures, their robes shifting like smoke, eyes glowing red, voices whispering in unison. "Give us the child and we will let you live." Lyra's body stiffened, her heart pounding so loud it drowned the alarms. Kyle stepped forward, standing between her and the intruders. His voice cut through the chaos like fire. "You'll get nothing," he growled. "You want her child, you'll have to kill me first," the collectors hissed, their shadows spreading across the floor like black water. One raised a clawed hand, energy crackling in the air. Kale lifted the weapon, his stance steady. For a moment, time froze. Lyra's breath caught. Her child kicked violently, every part of her screamed in fear. But beneath the fear was something else, a spark of faith. Faith in the man who had chosen to stand with her. The bay exploded into chaos. Kale swung, striking the first collector with all his strength. The shield flared in Lyra's hands as dark energy slammed against it. She screamed, her body shaking, but she held on. For her child, for Kale, for herself. The fight was brutal, light and shadow colliding. Kale moved like a storm, every strike born of fury and will. He was only human. But in that moment, he was more. Every blow said what words could not. He would not let them win. Not while she and her child still lived. And in the middle of the battle, Lyra felt it. Her child moved again. But this time it was different. Stronger. Brighter. A warmth spread. Through her body, her eyes widened in shock. The baby inside her was glowing, a faint light shining through her skin. The collectors froze, their voices hissing louder. "Yes," they whispered. "The seed awakens." Lyra gasped, clutching her stomach. Her child was not ordinary. Her exile, the danger, the collectors. It all made sense now. The baby carried something powerful, something both feared and desired. And now everyone in the galaxy would come for it. The light from Lyra's belly grew brighter, spilling through her skin like a burning star. Her hands trembled as she held it, her eyes wide with shock. She could feel her child moving, not in fear, but in strength. It was as if the baby knew what was happening, as if it was answering the collectors itself. The cloaked figures hissed, their red eyes blazing with hunger. "The seed is awakened," they whispered together. Voices twisting like metal tearing. "It belongs to us." Kale moved in front of Lyra, sweat dripping down his face, weapon gripped tight. "Then you'll have to tear it from me," he growled. His body was battered, his breaths heavy, but his spirit refused to break. He swung again, striking a collector across its shadowy chest. The figure staggered back, its form flickering like smoke. But more closed in, reaching their claws toward Lyra. She screamed, activating the small shield device Kale had given her. The air shimmered. Around her, a fragile wall of blue light. Dark energy slammed against it, cracking the barrier. She fell to her knees, her body shaking. Her child's light flared brighter, bursting out in a shockwave. The collectors staggered back, their hisses turning into shrieks. They clutched their robes, shadows breaking apart under the glow. Kale glanced over his shoulder, his eyes wide with disbelief. "Lyra!" he shouted. "It's not just you, it's the child," she gasped, tears sliding down her cheeks. Her people had called it weakness, a mistake. But here in the darkness her child was strength. Her exile was not punishment, it was fear. Her people had feared this power. The collectors regrouped, their voices rising in anger. "The light cannot last," they hissed. "We will cut it out. We will feed on it." They rushed forward again. Shadows stretching like claws, Kale roared, charging into them, swinging his weapon with desperate strength. Every strike was wild but filled with purpose. He was not fighting for glory or survival. He was fighting for her, for the child, for the life he had sworn to protect. The station shook with the force of the battle. Panels ripped open, sparks flying across the bay. Lyra pressed her hands over her belly, whispering softly, "Stay strong, my child. Stay strong." The light pulsed again, stronger this time. It spread through the walls, through the floor. The entire station seemed to glow for a moment, alive with the unborn's energy. The collectors screamed in unison. Their shadows writhed, breaking. Apart under the brilliance, one fell to the ground, its robe dissolving into dust. Another staggered back, clawing at its own chest. Kale pressed forward, striking one after another, his rage fueled by the light at his back. Every time he looked at Lyra, his arms grew stronger. Her glow was his strength. But the collectors were not so easily defeated. The largest of them stepped forward, towering. Over the others, its voice was deeper, colder. "You cannot fight destiny," it growled. "The seed will be ours, even if it destroys you." It raised both hands, dark energy swirling like a storm. The bay shook, the floor split. Kale stumbled, trying to hold his ground. The shield around Lyra cracked again, sparks raining down, and then something impossible happened. The baby kicked hard. The light burst out in a blinding wave, not only around Lyra but around Kale too. His body glowed faintly, his weapon burning with new brilliance. He gasped, staring at the light wrapping around his arms. "It's protecting me," he whispered. Lyra's tears streamed freely now. The child was not weak, not cursed, not late. It was a bridge, a bond, not only between her and her unborn, but between her and this human who had chosen to fight at her side. Kale roared, swinging his glowing weapon with renewed strength. He cut through the largest collector's dark energy, shattering it like glass. The creature staggered, screaming, its form unraveling. The others shrieked, retreating into the shadows. The bay fell silent except for the crackle of broken wires. Kale dropped to one knee, panting. The glow faded slowly. From his arms he turned to Lyra, his voice hoarse. "You're not alone anymore," he said. Her body shook with sobs. For the first time she believed it. For the first time exile no longer felt like death. It felt like destiny. But deep in the shadows of space, more whispers echoed. The collectors had been beaten but not destroyed. And now the galaxy would hear of the Light Child. Enemies would come, hunters would rise, and the greatest fight was still ahead. The bay was quiet again, the silence heavy after the storm. The glowing light faded slowly from Lyra's skin, leaving only a faint warmth in her belly. Her child moved softly, no longer restless, as if it had spent all its strength. She leaned back against the wall, her body weak, her breaths sharp and uneven. Kale knelt nearby, his weapon resting at his side, his chest rising and falling with exhaustion. For a long time neither spoke. Only the hum of the damaged station filled the air. Finally, Kale broke the silence, his voice rough but steady. "We can't stay here." Lyra's head lifted slowly, her eyes heavy with fear. "Where would we go?" she whispered. "This station was meant to be my grave." Kale looked at her, his eyes sharp, determined. "Then we'll make it our beginning instead," he said. "They'll come back, and they'll bring more. But we won't be waiting for them here." Her lips trembled, doubt rising inside her. Her whole life she had been told humans were reckless, weak, selfish. But Kale had stood against shadows that made even her people tremble. And he was still standing even now, even when the fight seemed impossible. She wanted to believe him, but fear weighed her down. As if sensing her thoughts, Kyle leaned closer, his voice softer. "Lyra, I don't know what your child carries, but I know this." He placed his hand gently on her shoulder, his touch warm. "No one decides your fate except you. Not your people, not these collectors, not anyone." Her eyes filled with tears, her heart twisting with emotions she had buried for so long. To be seen, to be defended, to be believed in. It was all new to her, and it came from a human, the very kind she had been taught to mistrust. Before she could answer, a low rumble shook the walls. The station's outer sensors flickered on the broken console. Kyle rushed over, tapping at the controls. The screen cleared, showing tiny blips, moving against the black of space. Ships. Many ships. Lyra gasped, her hands clutching her stomach. "They already know," she whispered. Kale's face darkened. "They must have sent a signal before we stopped them." The collectors were not the only danger. Now every scavenger, every outlaw, every power-hungry ruler would hear of the Light Child. The baby that glowed with strength beyond imagination. They would all come to claim it. Kyle turned sharply, his voice hard as steel. "Then we move now." He pulled a small device from his pack, activating a hidden signal. Moments later, a rumble echoed through the lower hangar. His ship, old, patched and scarred, powered up, lights flickering alive. Lyra stared at it with wide eyes. "You had a ship here all along." Kyle gave a tired grin. "I told you I couldn't just walk away." He moved to help her stand, but she shook her head stubbornly. Her pride still burned even after everything. "I can walk," she said, though her body trembled with every step. Kale stayed close, not pushing her but ready to catch her if she fell. Together they moved toward the hangar, every corridor whispering with shadows. The air was thick, as if the station itself mourned what was about to come. At the hangar doors, Lyra paused, her eyes fixed on the ship. Fear battled with hope inside her chest. Once she stepped aboard, there would be no turning back. Her exile had been meant to end here, quietly. But with Kale, it was becoming something greater, something terrifying. A fight not just for survival, but for destiny. Kale turned to her, his voice firm but gentle. "This is your choice, Lyra." He held out his hand, just as he had the first time in the corridor. No demand, no force, only an offer. Her eyes burned with tears, her heart racing. Slowly, she placed her hand in his, for the first time, not out of fear, but out of trust. They stepped into the ship together, the doors sealing behind them. The engines roared, rattling the metal walls. Lyra sat carefully, her hands resting over her belly. Her child stirred, as if sensing the journey ahead. Kale moved to the controls, his eyes sharp on the void of space. The console beeped with warning. Signals. Enemy ships closing in. But Kale's lips curved into a small, fearless smile. "Let them come," he said. "We'll show them what it means to fight for something worth living for." The ship lifted from the hangar, breaking free into the endless black. The stars stretched out before them, bright and cold. Behind them, the station that had been her prison shrank into darkness. Ahead, danger waited, but so did possibility. For the first time, Lyra did not feel exiled. She felt chosen, not by her people, not by fate, but by the human who refused to let her fall, and by the child who carried a light strong enough to shake the stars. The old ship cut through the black of space, its engines roaring like tired lungs. Kale's hands gripped the controls, his eyes sharp on the endless stars ahead. Beside him, Lyra sat quietly, her silver hair falling across her face, her hands pressed to her belly. The child stirred within her, glowing softly beneath her skin. She could feel its warmth, its strength, its promise, but she could also feel the weight of the storm gathering around them. The console blinked red, warning, lights flashing. Dozens of ships appeared on the scanner, closing in from every side. Collectors, scavengers, mercenaries, all drawn to the same promise of power. Lyra's heart pounded, her voice breaking. "They are everywhere," she whispered. Kale's jaw tightened, his voice steady. "Then we fight through." The comm crackled, a voice spilling, through like venom. "Surrender the child and you may live," it hissed. Kale leaned forward, his voice like steel. "Come and take her." The enemy ships opened fire, beams of energy tearing through the void. Kale jerked the ship hard, dodging blasts that lit up the black like lightning. The vessel shook, alarms screaming, but his hands never faltered. Every movement was precise. Born from years of surviving battles far worse than this, Lyra clutched her seat, her eyes wide with fear and awe. This human was not only stubborn, he was unbreakable. A blast rocked the hull, sparks raining from the ceiling. Lyra cried out, her belly burning with sudden pain. Kale turned, his face pale. "Lyra," he shouted. Her lips trembled, her eyes wet with terror. "It's starting," she whispered. "The child is coming." Kale's heart froze. Not now, not here, not in the middle of death, but there was no choice. He moved quickly, activating the autopilot, the ship swerving through fire on its own. He rushed to her side, kneeling, his hands trembling. "Breathe," he said. "Just breathe, I'll keep you safe." The glow from her stomach grew brighter, filling the cabin with golden light. The child's power pulsed through the ship. For a moment the alarm silenced, the walls hummed with new strength. Cale felt it in his chest, a warmth that drove away his fear. It was as if the unborn itself was shielding them, but the enemies saw it too. Their voices howled through the calm, desperate and hungry. The light awakens, take it now. More ships closed in, surrounding them, their weapons locking on target. Kyle's eyes burned with fury. He stood, placing his hand firmly over Lyra's, feeling the glow beneath her skin. No one touches this child, he growled. The ship trembled as if answering him, the glow spreading into the engines. Outside, light burst from the vessel, blinding the enemy ships. For a heartbeat, the void itself turned to day. The collectors screamed as their ships twisted under the radiance. Metal warped, shadows burned away, one by one. Their vessels cracked and vanished into the dark. The scavengers fled, their voices filled with terror. Not worth it, nothing is worth this. Only silence remained. Cale stared out the viewport, his breath heavy. They had not fought alone. The child had fought with them. Lyra's body slumped, exhaustion taking her. Cale caught her quickly, lowering her gently, her eyes fluttered, her voice weak. Cale. Why? She whispered. Why do you risk your life for me? He met her gaze, his voice low but unshaken. Because no one else would, and because you and your child deserve to live. Her eyes filled with tears, her lips trembling. Her whole life, she had been told she was unworthy, cursed, broken. But this man, this human, saw her as something worth fighting for, and in that moment she believed it too. The ship drifted into silence, the stars endless around them. Cale adjusted the controls, setting a course away from the broken station and the battlefield of ashes. Lyra leaned back, cradling her stomach, her glow dimming but steady. For the first time she felt peace. But she also knew peace would not last. The galaxy had seen the light. The collectors were not destroyed, only delayed. And now more would come. Armies, rulers, hunters, all chasing the child that glowed like a star. Cale looked out at the void, his jaw set. They'll keep coming, he said quietly. Lyra nodded, her voice soft but strong. Then let them come. Her hand tightened over her belly. We will not run forever, Cale. We will fight. Together. Cale's lips curved into a small, fierce smile. He reached over, his hand resting gently on hers. The stars stretched before them, vast and endless. Behind them was exile and fear. Ahead was war and destiny. And in the middle of it all, a child yet unborn, carrying light strong enough to shake the universe.